Welcome to Your Messy Brilliance Show in 2019. I'm Kelly McNeilis, the founder of Women for One, and I am honored to be speaking with Kimberly Kovacs today. So let me tell you a little bit about Kimberly. She has had a distinguished career in executive leadership and finance. She's a serial entrepreneur and investor, and I'm so excited to have an entrepreneur on our podcast because we as women need to own our purse. We need to utilize the funds that we can raise, the funds that we can make to make this world a better place for women. So she's also an investor in software as a service, technology, agriculture, health companies, and she's personally raised more than $100 million for ventures she's led, all resulting in successful exits. That's incredible. She's also an active angel investor, advisor, and executive consultant for emerging companies and is passionate about the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides mentorship to students and startups in LA and Orange County. She entered the cannabis space, which is so cool, as an investor and an entrepreneur to raise awareness and usage of cannabis to fight America's opioid epidemic and give women greater decision making in their health and wellness decisions. I'd like to welcome Kim Kovacs from MyJane.
Thank you, Kelly. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So the first thing I always ask people that I speak with, great women that have done wonderful things around the world, is a little background so our community can kind of get to know you and understand your history and your story, because that's what we're all about at Women for One.
Oh, well, great. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And, it's been quite a journey for me. Growing up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and leaving there at 18 years old, I sort of decided that I really should have been born on the West Coast. And I told my parents that actually when I was 10 years old. So I moved to California, went to school out here, got my degree in finance, and literally jumped, both feet into the pool with entrepreneurship. And I worked for this amazing woman, and she was really, truly my mentor and my guiding light as an entrepreneur. Her name is Ingrid Croce, and she is the widow of Jim Croce, the singer from the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's great.
And so she has, you'll have to interview her at some point. Her story is absolutely incredible, but literally she became sort of an overnight success in her own way by challenging the music industry and the intellectual property rights of artists.
Oh,
Because
wow.
when Jim Croce died, she did not have access to, and they were fighting her on the royalties that were due her because of his passing. And it took probably 10, 15 years of litigation and changed laws. And so she was just really quite the spark and the dynamo. And she turned that, sort of newfound wealth after 10, 15 years into restaurants and bars and entertainment establishments and really promoting young artists coming up through San Diego. And so giving them a shot. And so I was her CFO for 5 or 6 years and really helped her build that business and make some very interesting strategic decisions, and decided that I really wanted to be in the tech space. And like I said, I kind of caught that entrepreneurial bug from her. And since that time, I've started 6 different companies, either as a founder or co-founder, and mostly in technology. So that was really where, kind of my sweet spot was. And my last company before MyJane, I had sold to a Canadian company called Solium, which, by the way, they just sold to Morgan Stanley for $900 million.
Wow.
So it was kind of a nice little run there. But so after doing that, I became an angel investor. And, to be honest with you, Kelly, I was really, I was a little frustrated, like all of us have been, on the dynamics in the funding world, right? Only a very small percentage of women receive, funding from, venture capital, angel capital, things like
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always look at these things and kind of look around the room and say, why isn't so-and-so doing something? And then I kind of turn the mirror on myself and say, well, I need to do it then. I can't rely on other people to step in and do these things if I'm not going to do that myself. And so in 2012, I became a very active angel investor. I made 18 investments in women-run companies, joined a group called Golden Seeds out of New York, which
Yes. I've heard of, right?
Oh, I love Golden Seeds. I mean, they're such a phenomenal organization. And these women really just, they took a chance and they were pioneers. 12, 13 years ago now, they started Golden Seeds with this whole premise of, gender neutrality in business and really promoting women, as founders, as co-founders, and as significant shareholders and leaders in the industries that they were in. So joined them. I was part of their executive team for a number of years, started the Orange County chapter here in California. And as a result, like I said, made a lot of great investments. And about 2 years ago, I had a chance of looking at cannabis in a different way. And so kind of talking about that now, leading into my MyJane journey. So my mother-in-law comes over to the house last about a summer and a half ago now, so about a year and a half ago, and she was literally driving and talking and walking, and her backstory is that she's had a couple of surgeries as a result of cancer, and has a lot of robotic parts in her body. Pins and needles and extra bones and various things that she didn't really sign up for when she was born. So she was in a lot of pain and taking opioids for that. And so, having her drive and seeing her walking and talking and really having sort of just a normal life was surprising. And so my husband and I asked her what was going on, and she said, well, I have to admit, I've been taking cannabis.
Wow.
That's yeah.
Well, it always comes from a personal, anything you do, I find in my life comes from something that's a personal experience, Kim. And, before we dive into the cannabis and everything you're doing around that, what I want to stop and first of all acknowledge about you is, I love, Women for One is all about making life happen on our own terms. And you are such a representative of that. And it sounds to me like it comes very naturally to you. And what I've realized connecting with my community is it doesn't come naturally to a lot of us, including me sometimes. So I want to stop real quick and kind of pause and go back to when you said CFO, just briefly, because, you were the CFO of a company. How did you get there? And how did you have the confidence as a woman to know, throughout your career, to know what you wanted to do and how to create it and manifest it? Because I think sometimes we as women don't have the confidence, don't have the resources, or, really don't have the plan or the vision of how we need to take the next steps. So I would love to get that info from you before we move forward.
You're gonna hear a very interesting story about how I sort of stepped into this role. So I had just graduated from San Diego State. I had a degree in finance. I was doing consulting, and I was actually a controller for a mortgage company. And these were three guys that had been at San Diego State previously. And I worked my way through school. Coming out here at 18, I was very independent, both financially and, my family still lived in Michigan. So I was really had to kind of blaze my own trail and pay my way through. So I was 24 years old. I just recently graduated. We're in the middle of a recession and nobody's hiring for anything, including just even an accounting assistant. I looked at the paper one day. This is when, people actually looked at the newspaper for jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Some of your younger, viewers and listeners, yeah, we used to open up the paper and put circles around them. Ingrid was actually putting an ad in for an accounting assistant. And so I went in and I met with her and I told her exactly what I was doing and that I was helping really, sort of small businesses transform from being, very paper and pencil oriented to this new thing called, computers. And then it would then evolve into the internet, and that I could probably, look at some of the things she was doing both in technology and others and try to make some efficiency calls for her, not just being an accounting assistant.
Right.
My interview lasted about 4 hours. And at the end of that interview, what I said to her was this. I said, Ingrid, I am so confident that I can help you really, optimize your business, become very efficient, really understand from a data set what's going on in your business, that I'm going to work for free for the next 3 months. I'm going to put together a plan. And if you like the plan, I don't want to be an accounting assistant. I want to be your CFO.
Wow. That was kind of one of those gambles, right? That's a lot of confidence, Kim.
A little ballsy, yes.
Yeah.
But to me, I think going back to your comment and your question about, sort of women and, having to take that and make those leaps and really, pull ourselves up. To me, it was about, I wasn't asking her to take a leap of faith that I wasn't willing to do myself. And I was very confident that I could do what I said I was going to do. And I was literally putting my money where my mouth was.
Yes.
I didn't have the resources. I mean, I'm 24 years old. I'm living hand to mouth. I've got student loans to pay off. And if this didn't work, I was screwed.
Yeah,
I mean,
it sounds like it. That's a great story.
Yep. So 3 months later, sure enough, I came back. I had a little plan going. I could show her not just in sort of an idea, but actually with some data behind me that within a very short amount of time she could get her business out of the red, get it into the black, be able to grow, do the things that she wanted to do by just really understanding where all of her expenses are and where her income is coming from and just doing that analysis work. And so that has always carried me through is kind of looking at things from the data side, the analytics side, because, we all have emotions, right? And you could lead by emotion or you could lead by sort of analysis. And that's how I've always operated. I look at things very just empirically and just say, this is the data. We can debate all day long of how we feel about it, but the numbers are what they are. And if we could just agree on that, then we have a path forward together.
Okay, you are definitely my husband's friend. And that's why we would be very good friends if we got to know each other, because we would balance each other out. Because I'm all about the intuitive emotion. And Yam, my husband, for my community that doesn't know this, my husband introduced me to Kim. And so it's so great to talk to someone that actually speaks my husband's language.
Well, and you know what, to that point too, Kelly, I mean, I've always had probably more male counterparts as colleagues and mentors and other things because of that reason. But I think women really just don't tap into that enough. I think we kind of maybe bend toward, some of the more emotional decisions or like, it's my mom intuition or my gut reaction or various things like that. But in a lot of ways, we are using data to even make those gut reactions.
Agreed.
Or those intuitive comments, right?
I completely agree with you. Completely. And I've actually learned that from Yam as well. And I think that very intuitive business women and men, people, really do tap into that intuitive sense. And they gather all of their data, like you said, all their experience, their life experience, their stories, their information, and they look at it and take that in to make decisions. And then they call it sometimes going with their gut, but really a lot of the times it's really all the information they've gathered to make the best and most effective decision.
Exactly right. 100% right. And so to kind of go back to one more thing about sort of, and I call it stepping in now, because to me, I'm really stepping into like this new role that I'm in right now, which I'm really loving, which to me is, women, we've got to ask for what we want. And we can't be ashamed or shy or whatever, you want to attach to that in doing that. And to me, that's always been something. I mean, I've raised a lot of money for the companies that I've been on a founding or co-founding team of, because I'm a CFO at heart. I'm analytical, numbers. I, present them and I ask. I ask for the investment. I ask for the opportunity, and I don't just back away, but literally I push. And so I think women need to do more of that, to be honest.
I agree. And I think that happens in the professional life. But I guess my question to you is, does that translate to a personal life for you too? Do you ask for what you need? And did you learn that from your family's values, from any kind of background that you learned from mentors or parents or anyone like that from the past? Because we as women generally are not taught to ask for what we need. We're taught to play it nice and be the good girl. So where did that come from intuitively or naturally for you?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Boy, I'm going to do a little soul searching on my own here this morning. I think really my mother, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, she was a professional woman in the 70s and 80s. I mean, where she had to wear a skirt every day to work. And she lived, she was an outside appraiser. So she was like walking around farmlands and businesses in the winter in a skirt.
Wow.
I mean, seriously, I'm like, what?
Right.
And but for her, she really had this driving force to become more than just a secretary or the roles that were quote safe for women. She wanted to challenge that, and so I think I really learned that early, in my growing up in childhood, that if you don't really push and ask, you're not going to get it. And she had roadblocks everywhere coming at her, but she kept asking and just forging ahead. But I also have to say it's from my dad too. He gave me a lot of entrepreneurialism and confidence to just say, hey, you can do this and go do it. I don't want to hear no for an answer.
That's great. Like, just don't hear no. And speaking to that, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered? Can you think of a story or a few obstacles or fears that you've encountered over the years that you've had to overcome to move forward in your businesses? I mean, I'm sure you've had failures, right? We all do. And can you speak to one or two of them and what you learned from it?
So, oh, well, gee, how long do you have this morning?
Just one good one is fine.
One good one is fine. Okay, let's see. So, being in a startup community in technology, sometimes the data may be presented a little differently. And sometimes I would say I tend to be sort of the bull in the china shop, right? I kind of forge ahead, and I tend to listen last and kind of react first. And that's one thing I'm still working on, to be honest with you. But I had a really excellent co-founder in one of my companies, and I call him just the ultimate statesman. I mean, he was brilliant, and I was challenging, or I was being challenged by my board of directors. And, for me, it was really learning to kind of take a step back and listening a little bit more and uplifting my team. So to me, that was a challenge. I mean, to learn that and to not feel like I had to be right, but I needed to be, part of a decision-making team as opposed to the one making the decision. And so to me, the failures that I've had, I would say, in every company, we have some failures, right? And some successes.
Yep.
Hopefully they, one outweighs the other in a positive way. But I've really learned to take the group think and the team thoughts really to heart and try to balance that.
So a collaborative effort
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I would say, my early career, I wasn't doing that. I was really just hell bent on it, forging ahead. I had a great idea. I wanted to see it execution. And, I just did that. Bodies thrown aside, get out of my way sort of thing. And, that's not how I want to live my life going forward either. To me, this is about, working as part of a team and a group.
Well, in all honesty, it feels like you've moved from more of the linear masculine model that we as women 20 to 30 years ago to try to pretend to be the man came from, all the way into this embodied feminine leadership where it's like collaborative and open-minded and connected. So that's kind of my take on what you just said, which is more of the feminine space.
Thank you for distilling that down better for me. I can tell psychology is not in my background.
Well, this is why my husband and I work well together, I guess. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, I have another question before we dive into MyJane, because we don't get a lot of entrepreneurs on here, so it's just so awesome to have you on. As an entrepreneur and someone who's passionate about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and what determines the kinds of projects and endeavors that you support?
You mean as far as being an entrepreneur or as an
that
investor?
you select as an investor? Yeah.
So for me, I would say that every single thing that I've done and every company that I've invested in, there has to be something more than just making money at. So I've always been very interested in sort of how does this work in a bigger way? How does it really solve bigger problems? And then how can you turn those into sort of global opportunities for, uplifting a different type of group? So for example, one of the companies I invested in and was part of about 2 years ago is a group called Kenzen. And they do sweat analysis. So it's a wearable technology. And for me, it was about being able to, get information from our body that is being given to us. I mean, our sweat contains a lot of information. And if we can really start to analyze it, we can start to look at, for example, cortisol levels for women. and having real-time data on that and being able to get insights from that. To me, that was important, not just making money as a wearable tech and, having a cool new gadget or, a lot of big data that, is valuable, but how does that then, correlate or translate into something meaningful for a person who could perhaps change her lifestyle and reduce her cortisol level before she has a heart attack.
Mm.
That was
Wow.
important to me.
Yeah, I personally relate to that because I always have high cortisol levels because I live in this state of stress that it feels very familiar to me. So I'm meeting with my naturopath in an hour. So I'm always the first thing I think is apply it to myself and go, yeah, I need to get tested for my cortisol levels today. And we as women need to do that. Right. And I think it's wonderful that you're applying that to what you decide to invest in and how it applies to the greater good and how it can impact our world and us as women. So thank you for answering that. So I want to dive into what you're doing now even more. And I want to start because sometimes this is a bit of a taboo topic because, when you and I grew up, I got to be honest, I smoked weed when I was in high school and I was in North Carolina. There's tobacco everywhere, but we did it in the fields and it was very taboo, right? And now I'm in, Seattle, which Washington has approved cannabis, and it's such an exciting new frontier when it comes to revolutionizing the way we look at health and wellness. So I want to talk about how you're a passionate advocate when it comes to raising awareness around this and how it can, address some challenges we're having with our bodies and some of the epidemics that are going on in our country right now. How did this passion develop and why is it important for you to educate others on it?
So, like I mentioned sort of at the beginning, so I started this because of my mother-in-law and, just the sort of the shock and awe that I had because like you, I mean, growing up, right? I mean, I probably smoked some in high school, but for me, it put me right to sleep. So it was always like, hey, don't waste that on me.
Right.
I'll be on the couch, sleeping this off for the next 8 hours. So it's not really a good party drug for me. But hey, I grew up in Ann Arbor. We had the $5 pot law. We had the hash bash. I mean, so Ann Arbor was very progressive back in the day, and they kind of did their own thing. So growing up with marijuana and now called cannabis, to me that was kind of like, yeah, okay, so what? And because I really didn't consume, I didn't really think about it for the next, 30 years, until my mother-in-law was coming in and looking literally, 20 years younger in the span of maybe a month of not seeing her.
Wow.
And taking off opioids 100%, Kelly. I'm not talking like a little bit. I'm talking all of them. And this is a woman who was on a fentanyl patch, who was taking opioids by mouth multiple times during the day, could not get in and out of a car without severe pain, going to
Wow.
the hospital to go to the bathroom. I mean, seriously messed up. And so when I started doing, because I'm data driven,
Right.
as I mentioned, so I started doing research into the industry and really getting educated because to me, I'd heard the war on drugs and this and the other thing, and you're a stoner and but then really kind of peeling back on those layers of the onion and understanding what this whole plant can do and how it was being used in different ways was shocking to me. Use that word a lot, but when I get first of all, I'm in awe. First of all, I'm, interested. Now I'm shocked. And now, after another little bit of research, I became extremely angry because I thought, you're kidding me. We're doing pharma first in our culture. Like we run to, these things that have, typed, 1.0 font and 4 pages of, issues if you take this drug.
That's right.
Where the back of a cannabis container says 0. And I'm like, what? And so I started, really digging into this. I started making some investments in the space. I started really, digesting as much information as possible. And what I kept coming back to is this, that a lot of the things that women are suffering from, sleep, pain, anxiety, could all be treated with varying types of dosing of cannabis either no THC or low THC to a high THC, and they could enjoy a very vibrant sort of normal life and not having to take an opioid or not having to take an Ambien or not having to take something to, like I said, to get a good night's sleep. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think I mentioned this before. So I started looking around in the industry. Everybody's like, hey, I want to get to the women. Women really should know about these products that are out here. Mm-hmm. Women should try these, and it was like, you should. And so I turned the mirror on myself and I said, I need to do this. I have to step into this, because if I don't do it, who will? And if we all say that, then nobody's doing it, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, I look at it kind of like the Me Too plus. Me Too was about a certain type of thing. To me, this is about, why don't we own our wellness? Why don't we say what we want and have the, industry supply it, as opposed to the other way around, which is the industry supplies something and then we got to take it.
Right. And you're talking about how cannabis can give women greater decision-making in their health and wellness. I mean, that's what you're saying right now. And your company, MyJane, offers that, right? It offers that specific space for women. But before we go into what MyJane and the services they offer, can you just talk to me about, okay, so I'm listening and I hear your story and I see, where you got frustrated with pharma. How do we go from there in our belief systems around, you have to take a pill and you have to listen to the doctors, and move over and bridge that towards how do we use cannabis to support and heal ourselves?
And I'm a big believer too in one size doesn't fit all. I think this is a personal journey. And for me, it isn't saying pharma doesn't have a place. It certainly does. I mean, if I need to take antibiotics, by gosh, I'm going to take them. But in my regimen, I'm going to try emergency first. I'm going to try a little extra sleep. I'm going to try a few things before I run out and start taking antibiotics, because that's how I operate.
Me too.
And so to me, yeah. Right? The other thing, you sprain your ankle, you're not going to go to the emergency room until you've tried, some icing and maybe just an aspirin. You're going to try some of the home remedies first on a lot of these things. And what we're saying, or what I'd like to try now, is let's just do that across the board.
Yeah.
Why not? We're eating healthier. We're looking at the back of everything of where it comes from. Is it organic? Is it good for me? So why not try this first? And then if we're not getting the relief or the results we need, then we can move on to the next one. So it's sort of like jumping to the end of the movie first. Let's go through the whole movie, and then we can get to the end if we have to, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but to me, again, it's personal. And that's where I think I'm not here to tell you or anyone else what you should do, but I want to create, and that's what we've done with MyJane, is create an opportunity for you to try on your own and to find a personal routine that just works for you, works for your family, the people you care about, things like that.
So how can MyJane help and support women then? Can you give us, if I was going to your site, what would I do? Like, sometimes I feel lost in this world, right? So I go, oh, okay, where do I go? And is it easy and simple to use this service?
We're trying. Literally every day. That's our commitment and promise. So just kind of taking a little bit of a back step here. So what we did is we first asked women. Believe me, this is so interesting. I'm like, what do you mean this hasn't been done before? We put out a survey to 42,000 women just in Orange County, California. And we asked them if they would like to try cannabis, and if so, what would they like to try it for? And believe, Kelly, this is the first time this has ever happened. Like, literally asking women what they would want.
It's incredible.
And we got an overwhelming response, statistically significant, very low margin of error, and literally in the high percentages that said, we want to try it. We want to try it for pain, sleep, and stress. We want certain kinds of products like edibles and topicals mostly. We don't want to smoke. We're telling our kids not to smoke, so we don't want to smoke either.
I'm in there because literally
Right?
everything you've said, I am your customer
Yes,
because I
exactly.
don't want to smoke, but I go and I get my cream for my neck, my topicals, and then when I can't sleep or I'm anxious, I take a little bit of it. Like that's what I use it for. Perfect.
Exactly. So we asked these women, and that was really the founding platform of MyJane is we want to ask you, we want to hear about you, we want to help you. And, it's about women helping each other. So we've got this whole, sort of community of women now who are trying these various products and giving us their feedback on, is this working for you for sleep? So Kelly, I'd love to know, maybe offline, right? What products you're using and how do you use them and what kind of efficacy you have. Because to me, that's building that story. It's like what you do in sharing the stories so that it'll
Right.
help the next person. We're doing that with cannabis. So we want you to go online. We want you to, we want to hear about you. Are you sleeping at night? Are you allergic to nuts? Do you want to smoke or not smoke? Right. And then we want to curate products that are designed just for you. And then if you're in Southern California, we can deliver those to your house.
Wow.
And it's by a woman. And so she brings these products right to your door and she goes through every single one of them. And we have the most luxurious products that we have tea, for example, that is cannabis infused, very low THC or no THC, so that you can try that your first night and see if you get a good night's sleep.
Wow.
And the next night and the next night and once you find that routine, then you're going to come back and you're going to say, you know what, I want that tea every single day, can you get me a whole can of it? Absolutely.
It's
And
like
so,
23andMe, but for cannabis.
yes, exactly. And exactly right. Because that's the other thing is, even what's good, like my daughter, for example, so she doesn't really smoke, but she's taking some things, especially around anxiety, and she has ADHD, and she doesn't want to take Adderall. And so she's been really trying to find some other things that work for her. So her cannabis experience is different than mine, right?
Right.
She can sleep 24 hours a day. She's got that nice melatonin level going, right?
It's wonderful.
Whereas me, I need something that will get me at least 5 hours. And I've now found some great products that do that for me because of the MyJane experience.
That's incredible. So how do people get involved? How do we get involved with this? You said Southern California, but does it apply to every other woman as well?
Absolutely. So our first thing is about community and education. And so what we would ask is, come in, become a member of MyJane. It's free to sign up. And as soon as we have products available in different states or municipalities, so we talked about, before we got on this morning, a little bit about CBD and the hemp-based products and the farm bill that was just passed. So there's a lot of opportunity to get curated products that have no THC. And we can literally put those in the mail to you and get them delivered. So we want to know where you are, what's going on, how can we help you? And if we can't do it today, we're going to be darned, we're going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to make sure. I mean, my goal, Kelly, is to make sure every single woman has access to this and has an opportunity to at least have a conversation.
That's wonderful.
You
That's
know,
incredible. I really appreciate what you're doing. And I just really respect you as a woman and what you've done with your life and how you've created and decided there are no limits. It sounds that way to me, Kim, like about you. You make a choice and you make it happen. And I talk about that in my book. You get curious and you move through this process, and then you're really good at manifesting what you want and creating what you feel is a need out there and delivering that. And I'm just really honored to know you. I appreciate. So really, I encourage my community, and we'll have all the information up on this feature on how to get involved with MyJane, how to connect with Kim as well. And I really appreciate you being here today.
thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure. And likewise, I really admire what you do.
All
Thank you
right.
for doing.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.